The engine roar splits the Texas sky like controlled thunder. 400 feet of gleaming steel rises from the pad at Starbase, its 33 Raptor engines drinking liquid oxygen and methane at 15 tons per second. Below, Space Force generals stand with crossed arms, watching what might become the most disruptive weapons platform since the ICBM. Except this one doesn't carry warheads. It carries everything else. 150 metric tons, anywhere on Earth, in under an hour. The afterburners ignite, Starship clears the tower, and the future of military logistics just left the atmosphere. 8:47 hours, Vandenberg Space Force Base, California, January 2025. This isn't just another SpaceX launch. This is the Pentagon's answer to a question that's haunted war planners since China deployed carrier-killer missiles. How do you project power when adversaries can sink your ships and crater your runways before your jets even scramble? How do you resupply an isolated marine unit when every transport plane needs 12 hours and 3 aerial refuelings? The answer, screaming toward orbit right now, cost $102 million in Air Force contracts and represents a capability gap China is racing to close. Because Starship isn't designed for satellites, it's being weaponized as the world's first intercontinental logistics platform. A suborbital transport that treats distance like it doesn't exist. When a single rocket can deliver a battalion's worth of ammunition to Taiwan faster than enemy missiles can launch, when humanitarian aid reaches disaster zones before CNN arrives, when the tyranny of distance that protected adversaries for centuries evaporates. That's not innovation, that's strategic revolution. Starship's military appeal crystallizes around 3 brutal facts. First, its 150-ton lift capacity equals a C-17 Globemaster's maximum payload, except the rocket doesn't need runways, doesn't need aerial refueling, and doesn't care about overflight permissions because it leaves the atmosphere entirely. Second, point-to-point delivery timelines collapse from days to minutes. Launch from Florida, land in Guam 58 minutes later, no stops. Third, the sheer volume. Starship's payload bay could swallow 4 Abrams tanks or an entire field hospital. Cargo configurations no aircraft can match. Compare this to traditional airlift. A C-17 flying Los Angeles to Qatar needs 17 hours with multiple tanker rendezvous. Starship makes the trip in 42 minutes, bypassing diplomatic clearances and enemy air defenses by going through space. Russia's heaviest transport, the AN-124, maxes out at 120 tons and still requires airports. China's Y-20 manages 66 tons. Starship's advantage isn't incremental, it's generational. The genesis traces to October 2020, when U.S. Transportation Command's General Stephen Lyons watched a Starship prototype and had an epiphany. Commercial rockets could revolutionize military logistics. Within months, USTRA NSCOM partnered with SpaceX and the Air Force Research Lab to explore rocket cargo. By June 2021, the concept graduated to vanguard status, the Air Force's highest science and technology priority. Then came the money. January 2022, AFRL awarded SpaceX $102 million over 5 years, the largest rocket cargo contract in history, specifically to demonstrate transporting military supplies and humanitarian aid via heavy rocket. The contract's requirements reveal Pentagon ambitions. SpaceX must prove rapid loading systems compatible with standard 463L military pallets, must demonstrate landing at austere sites without traditional spaceport infrastructure, must develop airdrop capability for mid-flight cargo deployment, and critically, must provide Air Force engineers access to launch data and design specifications. The military wants to understand every engineering decision because they're planning to own Starships outright for sensitive missions. By late 2024, the program transitioned from study to action. The Space Force assumed control, rebranding it Point-to-Point Delivery, and allocated fiscal year 2025 funding for actual hardware, including $4 million specifically for designing an airdrop payload system. Lieutenant General Philip Garrett attended Starship test flights personally, stating bluntly, "We're absolutely interested. We're definitely following their progress. Translation: the Space Force sees Starship as inevitable. Picture the scenario where all this engineering becomes doctrine. South China Sea, 2033. A Marine Expeditionary Unit occupies a contested island 70 nautical miles from the nearest friendly airfield. Chinese DF-21 ballistic missiles have cratered every runway within 500 miles. Conventional resupply is impossible. Aircraft can't land, and ships can't approach without risking anti-ship missiles. At Vandenberg Space Force Base, a Starship sits loaded with 80 tons of ammunition, medical supplies, and Javelin missiles. The launch window opens. Raptor engines ignite in sequence, pushing the vehicle through maximum dynamic pressure, staging the booster, then screaming toward the upper atmosphere. 13 minutes after liftoff, Starship begins re-entry 7,000 miles away. Grid fins deploy, controlling descent through plasma blackout. The Chinese Integrated Air Defense Network tracks something inbound, but the signature is wrong. It's not a ballistic warhead, not a cruise missile, not an aircraft. By the time they understand what they're seeing, Starship is already below terminal defense engagement altitude. 4 kilometers up, the final engines light. Starship hovers, then sets down vertically on a cleared beach zone, landing legs compressing into packed coral sand. The cargo bay doors open. Pallets roll out on motorized rails. Marines offload 80 tons of warfighting capability in 9 minutes. Before the smoke clears, Starship relights and returns to orbit, leaving behind enough ammunition to sustain operations for 2 weeks. The entire delivery, Vandenberg to combat zone, took 56 minutes. No aircraft, no ships, no intermediate bases. No adversary had time to intercept. The Marines went from isolated and vulnerable to fully supplied, while Chinese commanders were still trying to classify the radar return. But the aftermath reveals deeper implications. Beijing's military leadership realizes their entire anti-access strategy just became obsolete. Their ballistic missiles can destroy runways, but they can't stop rockets that don't need runways. Their air defenses were optimized for aircraft and cruise missiles, not for vehicles re-entering from space at hypersonic velocities. Within hours, Chinese defense analysts begin urgent assessments. Within weeks, funding for their Long March 9 Super Heavy rocket, China's Starship competitor, doubles. Because the strategic reality is brutal, America's advantage with Starship won't last. China publicly announced Long March 9's redesign to match Starship's reusable architecture, targeting operational status by 2033. They're not even hiding their intentions. Matching this capability is now a national priority. The window where only the United States possesses intercontinental rocket logistics might be a decade, maybe less. Behind every Starship launch stands an industrial ecosystem that adversaries cannot quickly replicate. SpaceX's Starbase facility in Texas employs over 3,000 workers fabricating vehicle components using technologies that didn't exist 5 years ago. Automated fiber placement machines lay carbon fiber for heat shields with micron-level precision. Welders join stainless steel rings into pressure vessels that must survive re-entry temperatures exceeding 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit. The Raptor engine production line in Hawthorne, California runs continuously, churning out methane-oxygen engines at rates traditional aerospace thought impossible. But the military integration extends far beyond SpaceX. Lockheed Martin is developing rapid deployment cargo handling systems. Boeing studies mobile landing platforms, essentially seagoing spaceports that extend Starship's reach to oceanic theaters. Raytheon engineers design guidance systems for precision airdrops from supersonic descent profiles. The supply chain touches 47 states, creating constituencies that ensure continued funding even as budgets tighten. Meet the people making this real. At Vandenberg, Colonel Marcus Webb's team maps landing zones across the Pacific. Beaches, clearings, even parking lots that could accept a Starship in extremis. Their work is methodical, unglamorous, but critical, cataloging the Earth as one giant potential landing pad. The human element grounds the billion-dollar scale. Every successful landing depends on engineers who tested grid fins through thousands of simulations. Every cargo deployment relies on loadmasters learning to secure pallets for hypersonic deceleration forces. The technology is revolutionary, but implementation remains ruthlessly human, people solving problems that previous generations never imagined. Starship forces a fundamental reckoning about warfare's future. For centuries, military power rested on controlling geography, bases, ports, airfields. Starship suggests a different paradigm, treating space as the ultimate maneuver corridor, bypassing terrestrial obstacles entirely. If you can reach anywhere in an hour, traditional concepts of forward deployment and strategic depth become obsolete. Yet this revolution carries risks. Dependence on complex systems creates new vulnerabilities. A Starship fleet requires launch facilities, propellant infrastructure, orbital tracking networks. These are targetable, and the diplomatic implications are profound. When your logistics platform is a rocket, adversaries might misinterpret launches as missile attacks. The line between strategic lift and strategic strike gets uncomfortably blurry. Perhaps the deepest question is whether speed itself changes military decision-making. When you can deliver overwhelming force globally within an hour, does that make conflict more or less likely? History suggests technology often creates as many problems as it solves. Nuclear weapons promised decisive advantage but delivered mutual vulnerability. Starship might grant unprecedented mobility while creating new dependencies and escalation risks. So here's the question: if you controlled Pentagon acquisition, would you bet everything on Starship-scale logistics, accepting the risks of revolutionary dependence on complex systems? Or would you hedge, maintaining traditional airlift and sealift as proven capabilities, while Starship proves itself in the crucible of actual operations? Because the nation that gets this decision right will define military logistics for the next 50 years. This is DIB Dispatch, where billion-dollar projects meet battlefield reality, and the future of warfare launches from Texas swampland on 33 engines of controlled fury.